Hello and welcome to another October challenge. Today is day 4 and we are painting a pumpkin. Now I'm using burnt sienna, orange, yellow, green and just a little bit of black, and I'm using to start a brush pen from Inart. I love this pen, it's amazing. I am using a school grade watercolor palette. I will leave the details in the description of the video. And I just want you to remember, every time you're drawing anything from nature, nature has lumps, it's not perfect, it's not a perfect circle, it's not a perfect square. So remember that to make it look more realistic. We started with a light wash. As I always say, watercolors are like onions, all about layers, layers, layers. In the case of this pumpkin, we started with a light wash of orange, and now we are going to build up in the crinkles more and more along the video. And at the end, I will be a little bit in silent to let you just be and follow along, because it's all about layers. Very important, the highlights. I will tell you a little bit more about it later, but don't forget to leave some space with less paint than others. That's where the highlights will go, okay? As I show here in the video. On day 3 of the October challenge, I speak a little bit about shadows, and in some other videos, of course, I've created already. You can also check those out. Shadows create more depth. If you use a darker shade of orange or brown here, it's perfect. And here I almost forgot leave a little space for the shadow of the stem, of course, which you will then fill out with dark brown. I'm working the creases, just following along the drawing I made. Tapping a little bit from time to time just to create more texture to it. With watercolor, we go from light to dark, unlike other mediums. So it is important when you are planning a painting to think about that. With time, we learn to control the water, if it's too much, if it's too less. And it's all about practice, practice, practice. The paper I'm using in this case is just a normal paper, and I don't like how it absorbs the water. I used too much water in this case. So drying is a must. Drying, drying, drying. My motto for watercolor is patient is a virtue, because I am not, as you might know, a very patient person. Here we can start speaking a little bit about the highlights. So I am actually adding some lighter color, but usually you can use a lifting technique. If it's wet or dry, either way, you get a brush, very clean, little bit of water, and you try to remove the paint that is extra. Or you can use a kneaded eraser, but I don't recommend. You can always damage the paper. It's hard. My go-to technique is white gouache or watercolor. I just apply the white where I want to really make the highlights pop. The last technique you can use for highlights is masking fluid. Basically, you can buy it or create your own. You use a masking fluid and it's type of material. Then you watercolor around it and it won't get paint on it. Now we are just adding more and more details, and we are starting with the stamp. Now, this is a big pumpkin. I wouldn't waste my time or I didn't want to in this case, to make leaves for it, but I have some examples more ahead. Don't forget to switch for a smaller brush for the details. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make, which is to use the wrong brush. Now I have some fun facts about pumpkins. Did you know that pumpkins are actually fruits? And that the largest pumpkin was weighted over 2,800 pounds. Huge. Also, they are a great source of vitamin A, so make sure to eat your pumpkin. I love it in soup, and it's the time of the year to eat a great pumpkin soup. If you have any recipes, let me know in the comments. Now I give you two examples of foliage you could use to enrich your painting. As I said, I didn't feel like for this one I needed it, but I wanted to leave here some examples that you might use. And I will go quiet for the rest of the video. Just follow along. I hope you like it. I am building layers, basically, as I said, layers, layers, layers. Little bit brown, little bit orange. So I'll go now. So here is the final result. I hope you enjoyed this follow along. Like and subscribe, and see you tomorrow.